Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I'm sorry Valentina, but you're just wrong. This is not the optimal location to mine from, looking at the overlay. We're not going to go back there. In fact, here or here, those would be better locations. That said, we kind of want to land on this side over here. We do need to send down our mining module. This one over here is the one that we need to send down. So we need to decide when and where that we are going to do this. And for right now, I do want to come down dayside. And in a polar orbit, this does make things a lot more complicated for that. But if we were to just warp to about here, we'll take a bit of a look. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So let's just go ahead and, nice and easily, we will undock. There we go. We'll just get a little bit of distance. There we go. Fantastic. Okay. And you can see just that tiny little bit of DV actually made a big change. So we're going to turn SAS on. We're going to go to Surface Retrograde. And we are just going to drop our altitude here a little bit. Oh, hello. This engine is not currently active. There we go. That's better. Okay, we'll just bring this down to about 10 kilometers. Good enough. Excellent. And let's see here, that's 33 minutes away, this is 1 hour away, so we will warp up here and see what our options look like as far as landing locations. And this is actually looking pretty good for us. That's quite fantastic, actually. We are, I think, just going to warp to about here. And we'll just bring it right on in. A little bit further. And honestly, I think this is fine. As long as we land in a flat enough location. And we're technically only 5 kilometers up right now, which is kind of exciting. But most of our time will, of course, be spent reducing our apoapsis here. So this is a better location. I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say this is a great location, but it is certainly better. Hopefully we're not too low to get stopped here, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be fine. Our thrust weight is 7.29, and we're already moving pretty slowly. We do want to make sure to extend our landing struts. Like so, and we don't need this to be extended. Excellent. Okay, we're just going to have to slow down a little bit more slowly here. We're having a hard time keeping up with it. Excellent. Just trying to kill horizontal speed right now, so we may as well just go on to stability assist for the moment. Okay. Something kind of like that. I do want to push this a little bit more this way. Yeah, that's decent. Okay. So we are now on a descent into madness of some sort. Presumably Valentina's madness. But that could be entirely wrong, if I'm honest. This could just be my madness. It's hard to tell. So how long until we impact the surface at this point? Well, I mean, this isn't going to actually help too much. 13 minutes on that side. Yeah, it's more like 2 minutes until impact. Fair enough. Yeah, we're not going to Valentina's ice cream stash, although that is only 100 kilometers away, which I think is kind of funny and just goes to show how tiny Minmus is. When it's all the way over here, we're landing here, and that's only 100 kilometers away. Less than 100. Minmus is so tiny. Okay, so we are descending here, and we will continue to descend for a little bit. We're just going to let it drift on down. Our thrust to weight is 7.5. So I will just drop us down to about 20 meters per second once we hit 2 kilometers above the surface here. We are in radar altitude mode, so this is real altitude here. So we will need to begin our braking burn right about now. Okay. Now we'll let ourselves fall a little bit more. I just wanted to get us slowed down a wee bit there. We're 1.5 kilometers above the surface. Surface? That's the wrong consonant. The surface here. We're about 1 kilometer above the surface in 200 meters. So right about now. We're going to bring it down to 10 meters per second. There we go. I want to continue bringing it down a little bit more gently. Okay, we'll cut that. And then at 500 meters above the surface, we will begin our proper descent. Actually, I think we can go to 300. So right about now. Okay, and we'll just slowly decelerate from here. We will go on to stability assist. This should be flat enough for us. I hope. Just want to descend a little bit more slowly here. Four meters per second currently. Throttling down a little bit. This isn't all that flat, but it should be flat enough. I hope. Yes. Excellent. Okay. We will, of course, extend our radiators out. And they will be ready to begin cooling. There we go. We will deploy our drills. And begin the harvesting of the ice cream. And you can see that the ore rate here is quite a bit better than in the previous location. No ground contact. I'm gonna turn the SAS off for the moment, and then turn it back on just to allow that to settle there. Okay, let's check these, make sure that we've got ground contact. Fantastic. Okay, so our ore is starting to come in. This will, of course, take quite a while. So we will leave here, and you can see just how small Minmus is here. This is not the map view. And here we are. Well, let's hop back to the Space Center and see what we've got over here. So, I do want to check for some contracts. Let's see, that's a whole lot of nothing. Okay. And let's check in on some of our long-term missions here. Our Solar Gateway is still 200 days away from its maneuver node. The Raven 1S is 88 days away from its maneuver node. Now, of course, this is going to be a very, very long burn indeed. I want to check to see just how long of a burn this is actually going to be, because this is almost certainly going to have to happen off camera. Yeah, this is going to be like a 10-minute burn in physics warp. So that's definitely going to have to happen off camera. There's no way. Absolutely no way. Okay, and let's check on the Solar Gateway. Of course, this is going to be doing this burn. Right. And then we'd push out the apoapsis over here. So that's a ways away yet, and that's only a 40-second burn. That's not a problem. I want to double check our current inclination, 0.1 degrees. We might want to change that to 0.0 at some point. But for right now, I think that's fine. And we are going to, of course, have to send out other components to this. Actually, we can grab our gravity scan right now, and we can process that in the lab. There we go. Now, there's currently no scientist in there, and we don't have a scientist. So we're going to need to send out a primarily population module. Oh, we finished this contract. Okay. That's, easier than expected. But we're going to be utilizing this station as, like, a secondary jumping off point for other colonization efforts. So, here's the overall plan, right? We didn't just make the Minmus station for Valentina's dessert desires. That's not the only reason we did that. The primary reason that the administration signed off on it was so that they would be able to have a jumping off point from here, and we may end up having to shift it from a polar orbit. Ultimately, I think that's okay. But we have a jumping off point where we can refuel any sort of a super fancy upper stage. And we'll need to restart this. We have a jumping off point where we can refuel any sort of super fancy upper stage. And then we're going to have a tanker system. The tanker system is going to connect from the Minmus base to the Solar Gateway, and that is also going to act as a refueling point. So if we need to, we can make a pit stop by the Solar Gateway, but the main point of that is as a refueling center for the Solar Gateway. And then we'll use that as our jumping off point to explore the rest of the system. Now, our rendezvous with the Solar Gateway, we're not going to be able to rendezvous in the same way. The Delta V is just going to be too great. It would require 20,000 Delta V, as it is right now, I think, to rendezvous retrograde the way we have been. Rendezvousing retrograde is great if you have the Delta V to pull it off. You can guarantee a rendezvous, but it is less Delta V efficient. And it's not going to work over Kerbal. That's simply not going to be an option. However, I do want to start sending up the tanker craft. Now, the tanker is going to be an interesting design. So we're going to primarily base this off of the Mint Getter, but it's not going to be anything like this. We're going to remove this section, so the SLS will remain the same. This will become completely different. So we'll get rid of that. This is still going to be a drone ship. Okay, so this is going to be a remote guidance unit that this is based off of. This remote guidance unit is going to have some amount of fuel that cannot be burned for moving around. And fuel is heavy, and moving fuel from Minmus to the solar gateway is going to be relatively Delta V intensive. That said, as long as we time our resupplies correctly, it shouldn't be too bad. So, we're going to need a big old tank, and this is going to be empty. Completely and totally empty. We're going to put a second one on. No, we're not. We're going to put on a 32. Completely and totally empty. There we go. Now we're going to put on a docking port. So we're going to continue to use these airlocks. I actually really like these. Not necessarily because of the airlock portion. Well, the airlock portion is nice, but I just like the feel of docking with them. So we're going to continue to utilize those for now. And then, the question is there cross-flow here? Can an engine that's down here pull from these tanks? I suspect it can. We're about to find out, because I'm just going to plop on here a poodle. Yes, it can indeed pull from these tanks. So how do we block this? We need something that cannot cross-flow. It'd make no sense for this to be able to cross-flow, or like a modular girder segment that can cross-flow. Why? Why can fuel flow through this? That makes no sense. Okay, maybe an engine plate could disable the cross-flow? Actually, a decoupler can. We'd have to make sure that it doesn't actually decouple, right? But a decoupler there with disabled crossfeed doesn't allow any of this fuel to be utilized. In a pinch, we can enable it, but it would be something kind of like this. Then we'd probably have like a T-32 here, and this would be fueled. And it would be something like this. I want this decoupler to never, ever be fired. Like that. In fact, it would probably be best if we actually put the remote guidance unit on this side of the decoupler. Reason being, if I accidentally decouple this, this at least wouldn't be wasted and we could still utilize it for something. What could we utilize it for, though? It doesn't have a docking port. That's up here. Maybe we're better off the other way, actually, now that I think about it, because the docking port is up here, which means that, in theory, we'd be able to dock another engine here if I accidentally were to stage this, and we'd be able to utilize this portion. I'm not sure how useful that would actually be. Ideally, we just never do this. That would be the best way to handle it. Now, we don't actually need this adapter, and instead, I'm going to put in a Rockamax X16 with a decoupler. We do need a decoupler here. TD25, this guy. Okay. So something like this. This is fueled. These are unfueled. And the idea here is that this can just transport a large amount of fuel from the Minmus base to the station. Now, this is not very aerodynamic. There's, I'm afraid, not a whole lot we can do about that, unless... I mean, there's the shielded docking ports, but they don't have the large shielded docking ports. Like, I'm thinking like the dragon nose cone, the way that that works, but I don't think that that's going to be a thing. So the question is, what are we looking at for aerodynamics? Looks reasonable, but this is going to be sketchy to get this up, to be sure. This is not the mint getter. This is the fuel tanker. And Valentina is super upset to hear about this. Don't tell Valentina that we're doing this. She will not be okay with this. I want to reload the mint getter to make sure we didn't lose that. Yep, I did not overwrite it. Good. So here's the fuel tanker. Valentina is going to be very, very upset indeed. We need to check our staging. So that is all looking good. That decouples and these at the same time. That is not good. Okay, so these would decouple, and then nothing would happen. This would continue to burn, and then we would need this decoupler, as well as this engine to fire, and that gets us our exploration stage firing, which that should get us to the Minmus station, no problem. Then our engine plate can decouple basically at the same time. That's irrelevant. And then this decoupler should never happen. Where is this decoupler? That's this guy. Okay, so that happens right there. There is no stage 3 here. So let's double check this again. Good, 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 good. Yup. Okay, I think we're good. This is another simulated launch because we've never launched this payload before. But these have been going off relatively hitch-free recently. I'm realizing that we don't have RCS. You know what? We need RCS on this. Okay, let's put in some RCS. RCS is very handy if you're trying to dock something up. So we'll just put in some RCS fuel here. Something like that. And then a few thruster blocks. Honestly, octuple coupling should be fine with a payload like this. We also probably want to put an SAS module. And we'll get rid of that. We'll put an SAS module here, and that is a large SAS module. Now, I do want to strut this together, just to make sure that we're not lacking in any structural integrity here. It did not go well. There we go. So we'll strut that together. Okay, let's get this thing into orbit before the end of this episode. And then we'll dock it up in the next episode, while we are working on our infrastructure for our solar gateway. Okay, I think we are ready to go, and the only question is, what sort of ascent profile are we looking for here? The answer is probably pretty shallow. And by that I mean I want to spend as little time in the atmosphere as possible. We're going to go up until we have an apoapsis of 10 kilometers. We're going to get a little bit of horizontal speed going. Actually, maybe we pass directly through max Q before pitching with this thing. Yeah. Okay, we are through. Excellent. Let's try to pitch a little bit. I don't want to pitch too much right now. Okay, pitching is going reasonably well. Our apoapsis is looking good. Let's pitch it on down. Our apoapsis is looking real high now. Ooh, that was almost nasty. Okay. Honestly, we can cut throttle now. And at the apoapsis, we can just push this out and try to make it a little bit circular-ish. That'll do. We'll lock to that maneuver node. This is going to utilize this full stage, sadly. This is a 3-minute, 17-second burn, so we want to start this at 1.5 minutes plus 17. Math is not going well today. Okay. I mean, it's 8.5 seconds, so 1 minute 38.5 seconds is when we want to burn this T-minus. We'll go ahead and physics warp forward towards 1 minute 38.5 seconds. Hang on. I'm an idiot. We don't have any electric charge. Well, I did say this was simulated. So we will revert this back. I'm going to add some solar panels, and next episode, we're going to bring this up. And that is why I do simulated launches first. Okay, let's get solar panels on. Bam. Excellent. I'm also going to put one little battery pack up here. Okay, and with that, you can leave an offering to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.